This is Truth Recon, and I'm Agent D. Baker. I'm not here to whisper, sugarcoat, or give you a sanitized press release. I just watched the Alabama Solution on HBO, and I am telling you right now, what I saw on that screen wasn't a documentary. It was evidence. Evidence of murder, abuse, corruption, and a system that rewards it. If you're fine with tough on crime talking points that try to mask these torture chambers as corrections, this podcast is not for you. But if you want the truth, the raw truth, then stay with me, because I'm about to expose Alabama's Department of Corrections for what it is: one of the most corrupt, most brutal systems in America. And yes, I'm going to name names, including Governor Kay Ivey and Lieutenant Roderick Gadson. Now, let's go into the description of what I'm talking about if you're not familiar with it. It has been released on HBO Max, and it is called The Alabama Solution. Go watch it. Trust me, not for children. But The Alabama Solution pulls back the curtain. It starts with Stephen Davis, an incarcerated man beaten so badly he was rushed to an ICU and dead by the time filmmakers arrived. The state claimed he charged officers with a weapon, but a corrections officer privately told his mother, a corrections officer privately told Stephen Davis's mother, your son was beaten to death by an officer. Two stories, but only one can be true. The film goes beyond one death. It shows a system with almost 1,400 deaths since 2019. Doesn't sound like corrections to me. Sounds more like slaughter. Side note, I've been in every single state prison in Alabama at one point or the other. Now, some of them I haven't been in 20 years, but I've been in every single one at some point. The facilities are not good, to say the least. Not good. That is hopefully and supposedly going to get fixed. However, none of this is about the facilities. The facilities are horrible. They're not good living conditions. But unfortunately, that's not the worst part. This documentary dives into the absolute worst parts that could be fixed and needs to be fixed and should be fixed before you spend billions of dollars, yes, billions, on new facilities. Because if you don't change the system, the new facilities are not going to do anything. It's not rocket science. Now, if you're not familiar with Alabama's Department of Corrections, the U.S. Department of Justice already investigated Alabama prisons. In 2020, they concluded the state couldn't even keep track of its dead. Homicides were mislabeled, natural. Dozens of deaths were simply unreported. And since then, the death rate has doubled. Since the Department of Justice came in and investigated, the death rate has doubled. Think about that. Families bury loved ones without truth. Mothers get gaslit by official reports while knowing in their gut they're being lied to. And Alabama keeps telling the public, don't worry, we've got an Alabama solution. Yeah. The solution appears to be lie, bury, and deny. Because y'all have had this solution for years now, and we are still in the same position. I do not understand why we are not even attempting to fix this problem. And if you are attempting to fix it, you need completely new leadership, because they obviously don't know what they're doing, because nothing's being fixed. The film also shows rampant drug use, men nodding out, half dead on camera. In 2019, reportedly 9 drug-related deaths. No way it was that low. By 2023, more than 100. I guarantee you it's way more than 100 by now, and it was way more than 9 in 19. Again, just because it's what they report does not mean it's the truth. And I mean, the ugly truth, drugs don't float through the walls. They don't just appear in inmates' hands. They come in through people. 100%. 100% of drugs come in through people into facilities. Simple, right? They come in through, number one, officers, corrections officers. Number one, officers are the main source of illegal contraband entering these facilities. It also comes in through contractors, maintenance people, those kind of things, and medical staff. And even in this, in the documentary, you hear from former officers, and they admit, which is not surprising, leadership doesn't really want to catch drug smugglers because it would mean firing staff. And that makes their staffing numbers look worse. That's corruption, plain and simple. I mean, think about that logic. They know tons of their officers are bringing in this illegal contraband. However, they don't look for it. They don't try to stop the contraband from coming in because they know if they catch an officer with it, they have to fire them, and they don't want to lose the employee. I don't even. I literally don't have words for that. Let me stop right here and speak from experience. I'm not just a guy behind a mic. I was a shift commander over one of the largest county jails in the state of Alabama. And when I first got promoted, I was put on evening shift, and so I was fully in charge of the entire facility, every single inmate, every employee, every operation. And let me tell you straight up, it is by far the most stressful job in law enforcement. Every decision you make can turn into chaos, and most of the time does, into chaos in seconds. I mean, it would blow your mind the problems you have to face in one shift. And those of you that's worked in corrections know, like, you can't even exaggerate. It would be impossible to exaggerate how crazy it gets. I mean, it's problem after problem. The best leadership experience you will ever get as a supervisor. I mean, if you can correctly lead a facility like that, or just a shift for 4 years, and things are done right, or you will leave there as an amazing leader, because you it's impossible to be successful at that in those facilities without being a great leader. It's impossible. But here's the difference. In the more than 2 years that I worked in that facility, to my knowledge, and I don't think, and I'm not just talking about my shift, I'm about all of them, not one single cell phone made it through the whole time I was there. Not one. Did drugs show up sometimes? Absolutely. You will never stop 100% of contraband entering those facilities. Impossible. Literally impossible to stop every piece of contraband. But don't you dare let Alabama DOC feed you the lie that it's impossible to keep most of it out, because that's simply not true. I have seen it. I'm not responsible for setting the policies and procedures that kept that facility I worked in clean. I just enforce those policies. So it starts at the very top. Who's writing the policies? Are they making sure they're being carried out exactly like they should be? It all starts there. And if it's good there, then it will flow downhill, and everything will run a lot more smoothly, and much less contraband gets in. Way less. It does not take a genius to be able to figure this stuff out. But contraband gets in two ways: through intake or visitation. So when an inmate first enters the facility, or when they have had to leave the facility for court, maybe go to the hospital, doctor's appointment, and then entering back, or their visitors get them in. But the number one way that contraband gets in by far is through staff, corrections officers, maintenance, medical personnel. And let me be clear, like I said, the majority comes from staff. It's not theory. It's a fact. So when I see Alabama prisons flooded with phones and drugs, I know the truth. It's not a staffing issue. It's a leadership issue. I have seen it done right. If you don't enforce discipline with staff, you invite corruption. Alabama DOC isn't incapable, they're unwilling. But there has to be strict discipline with your staff. That's why it's a sucky job. I'm not trying to deny that. If you're just a corrections officer at one of these, it's a sucky job. Like, it's a tough job, very tough. But someone has to do it. Thankfully, there are a lot of people, men and women, that step up and do it right and correctly. Unfortunately, in Alabama DOC, that's not what we're seeing. And working in my previous capacity, traveling around the state and the Southeast, working in large criminal organizations, I've investigated some of the state corrections officers before in the past that were bringing stuff in. So I know how they do it. Again, it's not hard, which means it's also not hard to catch them. It's just not. All right, back to Stephen Davis. The guard at the center of his death, Roderick Gadson, the state cleared him, promoted him twice. That's not justice. That's institutional reward for violence. And here's where my training comes in. In the documentary, Gadson is shown in he was having to go through due to a lawsuit. And I watched him very carefully. His body language, his phrasing, his repeated "I don't recalls," and this is a very elementary way of me putting this, but it's classic deceptive behavior. That man was being so deceptive through those interviews, it was almost comical to me. Very easy to read. Narrow answers, coached phrases, closed posture, That's not the natural recollection of an honest witness. That's someone trying to protect themselves and protecting the system. As someone trained in interrogation and someone that trains people in interrogation, I am telling you, Gadson's deposition was deceptive as hell. And the fact he was rewarded with promotions tells you the system wasn't just protecting him, it was thanking him. Now, I don't know what kind of guy Stephen Davis was, but I know the laws and rules of our country. And no matter what, doesn't matter he's in prison, doesn't even matter what's for. We do not have the authority at all under any circumstance to just kill an inmate just because. We don't, nor should we. That's not the way our criminal justice system operates. I understand our criminal justice system is far from perfect, but it is the best in the world. It makes mistakes. I get that. But we cannot allow this type of torture to go on in our prisons. We just can't. Sandra Ray, Stephen Davis's mother, fought years for the truth. Alabama gave her a settlement of $250,000. But here's the kicker. The state, listen to this, the state spent nearly $400,000 paying lawyers to defend the officers. And over the last 5 years, Alabama has spent more than $53 million defending and settling misconduct cases. So let's be clear. The state spends more defending officers accused of killing prisoners than protecting the prisoners themselves. That's not just financial waste. I call that blood money. Now, every correction institution is sued multiple times. I get that. And 95% of them at least are frivolous. Nothing to them. Inmates lie. Shocking, right? Inmates lie. But it's not hard in this. For me, knowing the insides of what I know and then watching what you see on this documentary, there is a lot of truth to this. There's one inmate that they show a lot on the documentary, and he's full of it. No way around it. I know that type of it, and he's going to try to start trouble wherever. He's going to lie. Get that. But I'm telling you that now Lieutenant Roderick Gadson was not being honest in any way at all during the partial interviews they showed of the depositions. Not even close. Not even close. He was not telling the truth. Now, Governor Kay Ivey, you stood at a podium and said, there's got to be an Alabama solution. We cannot tolerate the alternative. Let me translate that. We don't want the federal oversight, because oversight means accountability. That's the game. Keep it in Alabama only so the DOJ can't touch it. Meanwhile, deaths pile up, drugs flood in, and mothers bury sons. That's the solution. At this point, I have no idea why you wouldn't just accept the federal takeover until you get it fixed. I don't. But here's what accountability requires. Federal takeover now. Independent death investigations, not DOC whitewashes. Transparent reporting with autopsy findings. Prosecute officers where evidence shows criminal conduct. Real drug treatment programs. And don't let anyone tell you it's impossible. I've seen it done right. Let me say this clearly. Lieutenant Roderick Gadson, your deposition looked deceptive. Your promotions after Davis' death are a disgrace. You should not be celebrated. You should be investigated, which I hope now you surely are. Governor Kay Ivey, your refusal to accept federal oversight, along with our state attorney general, Steve Marshall, makes you both complicit. Every death on your watch is your responsibility. Alabama DOC leadership, stop lying to the public. Stop hiding behind staffing. It's not staffing. It's leadership. Simple as that. I'll be putting out tomorrow a full breakdown of Lieutenant Roderick Gadson's depositions, where I will be showing his reactions and then pointing out all the deception. Again, it is textbook. So be looking for that. I think that'll be interesting to a lot of you. This is Truth Recon, and I don't whisper. I don't water it down. I expose. I confront. And I fight for the forgotten. If you stand with me, lock in, follow me on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, YouTube. Share this episode. Share the Alabama solution. Make it impossible for officials to bury the truth again. Because if we don't fight this system, they win. And I'm not here to let them win. We're here to rid this state and country as much as possible of the corruption. And that's what we are going to fight and fight and fight. This is Agent D. Baker, Truth Recon.